Hey, Bridge Church, so glad to be with you yet again on another midweek podcast. This week, we are joined by Rich Hintz. Rich, it's so good to have you be a part of this with us.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, so before we start out, why don't you just let everybody know kind of a little bit of background on you. There'll be a lot of people watching this that know you and have known you for a while, but then people also that may not. So can you kind of just give a brief rundown of who you are, just kind of what you do as a job, and then what you do here at Bridge Church?
Sure. My name is Rich Hintz. I've been attending Bridge Church for 12 years now. I've been married to Lori for 27 years.
Wow.
Crazy to think
That's
about.
awesome.
I have two adult children, Jake and Ryan. I'm sure you've met them. Jake is the worship tech guy out at the Ocon campus, and you'll find Ryan mixing sound here. For my day job, I'm currently the business ops director for Seasons Hospice, and I've been doing that for 2 years. At Bridge Church, I'm on the worship team.
Yeah,
been doing
you are.
that. Been doing that for 12 years. I'm also, a marriage mentor with my wife, so that's kind of exciting. And we have a bridge group.
Yeah, so you wear a lot of hats around here. I know we love having you on the team, y'all. Rich is just like so consistent. He helps us out a ton in so many different areas here at Bridge Church. And we just wanted to bring you on today, Rich, just to kind of speak into the lives of the people that are watching, just kind of talk about what you're doing and things that are going on while we all sit in this quarantine and are social distancing ourselves from one another. So one thing we just really want to talk about and lean into today is I just want to ask you, how have you been connecting with other people while we go through this? How have you been connecting with other people, and also how have you been connecting with God through this time?
Sure. A lot of connecting through text messages. It's a nice, quick way to reach out, say hi, how you doing? Just want to check in. Is there anything you need to be, any prayers that you need? How's life treating you?
Yeah.
For our small group, we were using Zoom. So that was a nice way of kind of just reaching out, connecting with somebody. Working through some of the technology has been a challenge because not everybody has Zoom or a laptop or a good internet connection. So
Yeah.
It's been a little challenging that way.
It's been really crazy because before all this happened, like I would text people left and right. Like I prefer communicating with people through text, but I never video chatted with anybody.
No, it's very
Like,
different.
I would video chat with my kids if they were away somewhere, or with our family back home. But like the idea of video chatting somebody just randomly was just like this, oh man, it made me nervous. But now like it's this new norm, right, that we're all experiencing.
It's getting past seeing yourself on the screen as you're talking to somebody else. It's kind of like hearing your voice for the first time on a recording. You wonder,
Right,
that's
what's
me.
this gonna be like?
And then, now you see yourself talking to other people.
Yeah, I think we're super thankful because I think that's been a great way that a lot of people are staying connected through this time. I know that our bridge group, both the one that we have on our Fridays, but then our college group, like a lot of our college kids they're back home. They're not here. And we're able to stay connected with them on a weekly basis through a Zoom call. And it's gone from being this thing that was like really weird at first to now it feels normal.
Yep.
Right. But being intentional about that, it's really cool. How about your just your relationship with God and in your quiet time? What has that looked like? Has that looked different? Have you noticed any type of shift inside of that and what that looks like during this time?
I think for me, it's just being more intentional. It's hard to say prior to the pandemic and being asked to be at home and, to kind of change your lifestyle. I had daily devotion time, but I think now with everything going on and as much fear that's out there and uncertainty as to what's happening next, it's just making sure you take that devoted time each day.
Right.
And it's really easy to watch the news or watch other people's Facebook posts and get wrapped up in kind of the drama of it all. And I love being challenged. And if you know Jake, our eldest, he's really good at challenging everybody. And he hit Lori with reading Matthew 6, verses 25 through 34, but reading it out loud and reading it slowly. And it's all about fear and anxiety and giving it all to God and not letting that fear run your life.
Right.
But it's very different to read it out loud and slow.
Yeah.
It just changes your framework. And you may have read those words before, but being very intentional about it, and by reading it out loud, it takes on a whole different meaning.
It's really good that you brought that up, because one thing I wanted to maybe ask you about is if you had any tips or any suggestions for people that may be struggling in this time with quiet time, or just being consistent with it, or trying to do something that seems fresh and new, and reading it out loud. Like, that is a good point. Like, actually hearing the words changes everything. Have you've noticed that you have learned new things maybe out of some verses that you just maybe felt like you knew like the back of your hand, that just like are fresh and new by doing that?
Absolutely. There's so many times you have a daily devotion, or you're going through and reading something you've read before, and it's easy to kind of skim through it. Oh, I've read this before. I know what it's going to say. But it's that intentionality of, I'm saying this out loud.
Right.
And the cadence of speaking it slower makes it have more meaning.
Yeah.
You know, you can't skim past it. You have to really take in the words and the context for what's being spoken to you. So it's helpful to pray before you enter your devotion. So you're asking God to open your heart and mind so those words have a different meaning to you.
Yeah.
But I think the world that we're in, and maybe whatever's going on with your work environment or whatever going on at home, rereading the word differently, it just, context is everything, and perspective is so important.
Yeah, that's so true.
And where we're at now, and as a society, our perspective has changed.
Yeah.
So I think with that comes just a different intentionality and trying something new, trying something different when you're reading the Bible.
That's really good. One thing that I've tried to do in the midst of this is, and this could help you out, I'm just going to share it because it may help somebody else out, is in the moments where I feel like I'm bored, right? Like, what am I going to do now? Because we're all sitting in our house, especially like on a day off, whenever we're not working or anything like that, is if I feel boredom creeping in, I use that as a cue to pray, or I use that as a cue to read scripture. And then I'm using that to like guide me into that. Or in the midst of times where I feel worried or anxious, use those things as cues, like turn those negative things into more of a positive. And that kind of pushes you to be consistent with it.
Yeah, and I find the U version has some great devotions in it. And in addition to our home group, we're also part of a U version Bible study group.
Oh, yeah.
And the most recent one that we did was Dangerous Prayers by Craig Rochelle. And it really challenges you to look at your prayer life. What are you praying for? Are you being intentional? Are you challenging yourself to pray prayers that ordinarily maybe you wouldn't?
Yeah.
A lot of times we pray the safe prayers, and it's difficult to pray those dangerous prayers of, God, challenge me. I'm opening myself to you. I'll go wherever you ask me to go. Those are scary things.
Yeah, but they can be the most impactful and the most meaningful, because
Absolutely.
you're allowing God's space to work in your life that way. And I love that you brought up that you do YouVersion plans together with your group, because that holds you accountable, right? Because everybody can see whenever you complete like day one. You get a check mark so you can see who's done it, who hasn't, and that just kind of pushes you to be consistent.
Absolutely.
With it. That's good. That's awesome, man. So before we leave and we wrap this podcast up, has God been showing you anything in the Word lately that has been super encouraging that you can just use to encourage others as we close this out?
I think for me, it's getting past anxiety and fear, and I think for me, God is challenging me to let go. So in my personal life with work, my career has always followed a similar trajectory, right? It's one of those, you want to be in a leadership position, you want to grow and always move forward. And
Yeah.
I'm being challenged right now by God to take a step back and to look at making a work change. And with that comes a lot of trust, because it's stepping out of the known and stepping into something that's very unknown and being okay with it.
Yeah.
So it not only changing jobs is difficult, but then changing your role and how your identity in work. It's a big step, but it really causes you to lean into God more and be much more intentional with your prayer life, and then how you interact with other people. And, and seeking advice from people maybe you ordinarily wouldn't have listened to. But I also find it's great to listen to podcasts of just different authors out there who can challenge you and cause you to just look at life just a little differently.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, hopefully, just through this conversation, you could take away some small nuggets and apply them to your life, and maybe they will help you out along the way. Rich, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. That was so good, man. Good stuff. Bridge Church, I hope that you guys have a great rest of your week, and we will see you very soon.